Kyle Healer from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. I wanted to do as brief as possible video about a band I really like that has a following, but they kind of would also go in line with another video series list per se of just sort of my shtick, unfortunately, with bands that I find to be brilliant that nobody seems to catch on or barely anyone catches on. Now this band has a little bit of a following, but part of it is they announced last week their new album is coming out, and so. But I was just going to talk about their history a little bit as briefly as possible. So the band's called PEPE DELUXE. It's not just, but largely two musicians from Helsinki, Finland, James Spectrum and Paul Malmstrom. Looking at the history, James Spectrum's been with PEPE DELUXE from the get-go, from the initial, like the mid-90s when they started. Their first album called Super Sound, I think it's called, I don't have a copy of, and it's very like sort of hip-hop, drum and bass, electronic at points. I've only listened to it maybe once or twice, but at that point, Paul Malmstrom wasn't with the band. In fact, he didn't join officially until later, but their second and third albums I do have, and then their fourth album, the one that came out last, I have multiple copies of. So I'll say, so I think it was called Super Sound. Anyway, that came out in 1999. So again, I don't have a copy of that. Again, it's been a long time since I've even listened to it. It's on Spotify. I've been meaning to, but I have a copy of their second and third albums on CD. The second album's called Beatitude. It came out in 2003, and I just revisited it actually today on Monday, May 24th. And I actually enjoyed it more than I even remember from before. But it's like, I don't know, 16, 17. It's a long album. It's like a concept album, but to show the booklet. I think of it most for one track, that one my wife enjoyed too, called Vamos Muchachos, which it's all in Spanish, I believe, but the style on that song is very sort of almost danceable, catchy, and very kind of it sounds very Hispanic. The guys from Finland, I don't know where they came up with that, but this album itself though uses a lot of samples, and but also has a lot of instrumentation, a lot of ballads, a lot of female vocals. They have female guest vocals, but just listening to it again today, I would say my other favorites, there's the track list right there, would be stuff like Little Miss Cypher, Girl. There's a video, and the singer sounds a little bit like, I don't know, it's like Lou Rawls almost. Lou Rawls or Sam Cooke. Very kind of, very soulful. Ask for a Kiss, that ballad, I was like getting like goosebumps when I was listening to that earlier. Indifference, Lying Peacefully, which I don't know if they're referring to the word lying peacefully right there, track number 11, being a lie or just lying down. I think it's lying down, but it could be either. And First Goodbye, that's a favorite. It's interesting. Now looking at this track list, it doesn't show Vamos Muchachos, because I remember that maybe it's a hidden track, but because there's 14 tracks on here, but there's more than that on Spotify, so it's interesting. But yeah, so that came out in 2003. Then they're known for, like, PEPE DELUXE, their history is known for taking their time. They don't release albums every year. So their next album came out in 2007. It's called Spare Time Machine. And I think this is around the time maybe Paul Malmstrom became like a permanent member. But I mean, I think he was more involved in this. And from the electronic beginnings of Super Sound, the departure is noticeable. Very retro sounding, very colorful, but also very futuristic in some ways, which is kind of a contradiction in terms if you say they're retro and futuristic. I actually almost think that they were probably fans of like Daft Punk at times and at points, but also fans of a lot of older music. But Spare Time Machine, I think, again, they made some videos for it, just like they did on Beatitude. Pussycat Rock was the single. I'm okay on that track, but my favorites probably would be Go for Blue, where the the vocal line is just repeated probably about 80 times. All the colors, but the rhythm is infectious. Miss Wilhelmina in her hat, and then Captain Carter's Fathoms? Yeah, Captain Carter's Fathoms, which refers to Captain Carter of John Carter of Mars. And I think the Time Machine, I don't know if it's a Doctor Who reference. I was thinking that was right around the time Doctor Who came back, 2007, and they were writing this, but it might be more like the Time Machine or, traveling through time and space per se, possibly. But yeah, there's a video, and I think it's animated, that was done around the time, and it shows some stuff from... So that's kind of very spacey and instrumental. There's some voiceovers, but yeah, it refers to the John Carter of Mars, the movie that Bryan Cranston and some other people were in. That was an adaptation. I think it might be Ray Bradbury. I'm not sure who the author was. A sci-fi author from, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years ago. So this is... Then they worked many years. That was in 2007. But finally in 2012, they put out their next record. And this is the one that I was introduced, and many people were introduced, called Queen of the Wave. Now, I have this version, and I have this huge version. This is the one they sold after it, but the vinyl. I have a standard copy on CD, which I'm struggling to find. Of course, I have a little damage to my vinyl. Stuff happens, when you move and stuff. But this is a masterpiece. This is I probably would feel it's my second favorite record of the 2010s. I would put The River Empire still ahead of it, but it's like 40 some odd minutes, and it's just so well crafted. There's videos for it, a night and a day, and I think Go Supersonic, the second and third tracks. But it sounds like it's an album that was made in the 60s, but it's got very pristine production. A lot of like surf rock. The other albums have surf rock in them too, but this one's even more prominent with the bass lines and some of the guitar parts. It sounds like Dick Dale, especially. But I just love and adore this album. It came out 9 years ago in 2012. That's why I bought this version, this deluxe 3-disc version, which is like a comic book, which the truth is I probably haven't read in full, but it's a work of art, and it's very well put together. It's kind of a throwback to sort of like 50s cinema, almost 50s and 60s cinema, sci-fi cinema. A lot of it reminds me, or like stuff, adventures in the Amazon, or the stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, if you like classic rock and you like pop, they call it a pop opera. I mean, just even the outfit the woman here is, the Queen of the Wave, is wearing, just kind of harkens back to Elvis Presley, on the beach, in some movie in the late 50s or whatever, or Gidget or something like that. So, but the Storm, the vocalist, which I'm not sure who it is, if it's one of the two main members or if it's someone else. One of them sounds a lot like Frank Sinatra on the Storm, the writers on the first arc, actually. I always think of Frank Sinatra. He's like a baritone, very smooth, deep vocalist, and almost like he's talking to an extent. But the organ work in this is just terrific. There's also references like to ancient Egypt, and this I've listened to this album probably 100 or more times over the last 9 years, and so that why they're on my mind. They did put out a single in the mid 2010s that I can't even remember the name of it. It was very much of like a speak and spell type sound, and then they did a soundtrack to the video game for Angry Birds, I guess, Pepe Deluxe. I've never heard that, and that's on Spotify. I don't know if that's just literally little interludes and stuff like that, if there are any, like, a lot of songs in there. Then they put out a single a couple of years ago, and I'm spacing. I wanted to buy the vinyl. They sold a 7-inch vinyl book, and it was like $20-some-odd, and I tried to buy it, and it wasn't available. I forget. It uses samples from like Groucho Marx and the Marx Brothers, but I can't remember the name of it. I should know. Maybe I'll go to my computer real quickly. Apologies for that, but I'm not someone who does a lot of editing, and time is of the essence, of course. But But and then I can pull up the name of their new album, which hasn't been confirmed when it's coming out. But Pepe Deluxe. This is their first album since 2012. Let's see here. The single. They don't even list it on Wikipedia, which is weird. Pepe Deluxe new album. I'm doing the Google live on camera, I guess. Actually, there's an easier way for me to figure this out. It's called, it talks about a trunk. It's called Phantom Cabinet Volume 1, which might suggest there's going to be a Volume 2 also. Phantom Cabinet Volume 1. But I'm wondering if it's going to sound like the single they put out a couple years ago. Yeah, Surrealist Woman. That's what it was. And I have to say that Surrealist Woman, the song I listened to the other day, I still like it. Very retro vaudevillian sort of sound. Reminded me a little bit of like Dirt Per Robbins. But after like the four or five times I heard it, I wasn't as blown away as I hoped I was going to be, because it was the first song I'd heard in 4 or 5 years, and then the first it was something I was thinking was going to be part of this next record they've been working on. There are a couple guys, these two guys from Finland, they kind of are very patient, and they wait for the access used to certain vintage, old, organic instruments, and that's why they've waited 9 years to make this album. But it's expected in the fall, the Phantom Cabinet, Volume 1. So, as a Pepe Deluxe fan, I'm totally like jazzed about this. I mean, part of the charm of them is their style, the vocal styles, the vocal harmonies, the female vocals, the kind of styles they bring in, especially recently. I mean, the previous music, the older music, was maybe more electronic. Now it's more, I don't know, just very retro, vintagey. And but they also kind of have like a percussive element, that a little bit like Apes and Androids, which is another reason why I'm really into them. They use a lot of hand drums and some other stuff, but yeah, this is in limited print. I mean, maybe I should do a separate video after I like page through this one day soon, because it had like 1954. It's like talking about different years and stuff. But yeah, I guess that's why I'm making this video, because I've never really fully embraced or emphasized my appreciation and love for Pepe Deluxe, and wondered where are the other fans. Like I said, I should start making a series of videos of underrated, under the radar bands that should be more popular, should have more of a following than they do. Just off the top of my head, bands like Ben Sinister and Apes and Androids and Ours and House of Fools. There's just a whole long list of them that I find them to be brilliant, but you know, they have their niche following. Small League sink ships. I don't understand why progressive rock fans don't embrace any of these bands. A few people do here and there, but it's like, it's where I'm kind of caught in no man's land, where I want stuff to be very good songs, but I want stuff to be, you know, not dumbed down and have musicianship. It's like, you have to have one or the other. You have to be either mainstream or have to be basically overly emphasized on guitar solos. You don't need that to write interesting music that's very cerebral. But, you know, I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. So, but yeah, I guess that Pepe Deluxe certainly falls into that category, although they were popular for a little while when Queen of the Wave came out. But it still didn't. I've also contended that King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, you know, I've kind of found the popularity that they should have, even though, again, King Gizzard's output is like 4 times, 5 times as much, and have been around less than half as much time, because I think King Gizzard has like 20 albums in like 7 years, and whereas Pepe has 4 albums, their 5th album's coming out in, you know, 20 plus years. So, but anyway, thanks for watching. Give me your take on Pepe Deluxe, or give me a suggestion of a band you think should be a lot more popular than they are. And if I have the time and the ability to do it, I'm going to start making more videos about those specific bands, because that's what my point a lot of it is, not to talk about the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Beach Boys and all these bands and Zeppelin so much necessarily. Talk about bands that need to be heard about more and talked about and heard from other people. That's, you know, you're fighting for the little guy. That's kind of my shtick, kind of my interest largely. So, but thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.